Hello, I think good evening everyone, and I think what I will do is just do a brief round of, I'll get the speakers to do a brief round of introduction so you have context of where they are from and probably maybe a little bit of some of the movie credits or project credits they have in the recent past so everybody can relate to it and before we dive into the topics per se. So why don't we start from you, Arpan.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Arpan. I have a company called philmCGI. We are based out of Pune and Kerala. We do visual effects, animation, CG and 2D both, and we are more than happy to be a part of Indian cinema, working on amazing projects like Jubilee, Chamkila, which is the latest one where we did the animation, Sacred Games, to name a few. And very happy to be over here and speak with these amazing people over here.
Hi. Hi, I'm trying to be a cinematographer and trying to be a producer. That's all about me.
Hi everyone, I'm Gautami Vegiraju. I'm a director of photography. I'm a creative technologist as well as an on-set virtual production consultant. I specialize in virtual production cinematography, and currently I am heading the cinematography department of a chain of studios, virtual production studios in Southeast Asia. And I also am a recipient of a couple of Unreal Fellowships. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I am Bhanu Prakash. I am the VFX soup for ReDefine VFX and been working here since 3 years or something. And about the credits, as Sisha mentioned, the last movie that I worked, I think the one that is quite common is Fighter, that I was a part of. Good experience to work here. And yeah, apart from this, other projects ranging would be Spy Kids and Abigail that recently came in. So yeah, it's a growing process, it's still learning, and very excited to be a part of this panelist. Thank you.
Hello, I am Dr. Rajeev Rastogi. I am heading VFX for a known production house called Excel Entertainment. And the last that we got release from the production company was Fukre in the month of September last. And now we are gearing up for one of the biggest mythology that is getting directed by a very known director called Rakesh Prakash Mehra. So that's where I'm heading as a visual effects producer. And been into the industry from last 15 plus years, and that's what my journey is. Thank you.
Very illustrious panel. My name is Prasad. I've been in this business for about 25 plus years. Been with organizations like Rhythm and Hues, DreamWorks Animation, and currently I head DNEG in India. I take care of the visual effects services business, predominantly from a production background, but also seen the transition of India over the last 25 years as a services powerhouse and you know, it gives me immense pleasure and I've also seen the changes that have happened in terms of the technology from how things used to come from the times that we started where we used to run dailies using film. We had to be very conservative to shoot it out to film and check out in dailies to where we are right now. And similarly, all the creative technological advancements that we had to adapt over a period of time. So I want people, like Arpan, works very closely with filmmakers. He calls it a quartet. He calls the team of a VFX supervisor, the production designer, the DOP, and the director as being a close-knit family who really, discusses the film and the planning of the whole thing. How do we go about doing it, obviously with budget restrictions, and how do we achieve the creative vision the director has, and how do we tell a good story? So, Arpan, you've been around for a while. So how have you seen your craft evolving and the art form evolving in the filmmaking process? And how has technology played a part along the way? And how is the synergy between a VFX supervisor and the DOP? How has that been? How has that changed over a period of time?
All right. I think introduction में बोलना भूल गया that I'm also a VFX supervisor. So वापस. Okay, so guys, I've been working as a visual effects supervisor from last 10 years, and my journey has been amazing. And basically, to start with, I wanted to be a filmmaker. And one of my very dear friends called Vikram Motwani, I mean, he's a splendid director. I asked him, like, if I want to be a director, what should I do? Like, to VFX karna, just stand behind and observe what the directors are doing. And that was my starting point where I entered into visual effects. So my journey has started more as a visual effects shoot supervisor, where I used to go on the set and learn about exactly, like, you know, what are the tracking marks. Yeah, you know, we had to learn 10 years back, like, you know, from scratch. Like, you know, looking at all the videos and, you know, figuring out what is the right way to do the right shoot of the film. And progressing from there to now, the journey has been absolutely wonderful, because I got to learn from the best filmmakers how they go about crafting their films, and additionally how VFX plays a very important role in shaping up the film. So earlier, you know, I was called at the back end, and, you know, जैसे कि film बना रहे, but उसके ऊपर final touch-ups के लिए, you know, used to have visual effect, like post में हो जाएगा, that is the word. But that was something which slowly evolved. Like post में कुछ नहीं होता है, post में खाली खर्चा होएगा. Okay, so you have to be very careful in how you plan your visual effect shots. So now at this part, I'm very happy and, you know, lucky to be in the part where I get involved at the script stage, where I really sit with the producer and basically understand what are the expectations in terms of the budgets. And honestly speaking, a visual effects film like a heavy duty is completely derived in what kind of budgets are allocated. And then obviously I have to really understand what is the vision of the director and how the DOP is going to really take the vision ahead. So it's not a straightforward thing, but then since you understand the whole filmmaking craft, you have to really sit and plan and really go about doing like how you actually going to go and shoot each and every scene. So it's like a mystery, it's like a journey in every film. So that's how I've been working now.
Okay, so I'm going to jump probably to a generation ahead with Gautami, the youngest person probably in this panel. So Gautami, I know the newer gen people, you're a DOP and you also call yourself interestingly a technologist and a DOP together. So I think that's quite a bit of a generation gap for some of us. So now, you know, how did you get into this craft, and how did you started focusing on virtual production, and how are you embracing technology, and how are you evangelizing this with all the DOPs and things like that?
So basically, I've been around for about 10 years, like, you know, assisting, doing my work and all that stuff. So sometime around the pandemic, when the first lockdown happened and everybody, all of us were sitting at home and panicking basically, I got the opportunity to go for a John Deere corporate shoot. I had no idea I was actually stepping into virtual production. For me, it was acha chroma ka shoot hai, kar lenge, whatever it is I need to shoot. And that's where I saw Unreal Engine, that's where I saw this technology, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? And then I kind of started researching about it. Somehow, with luck, a lot of luck, I got my first fellowship. Then Epic started training us, like, you know, investing in the community for virtual production, and I'm a very big beneficiary of that. So after that, I started I kind of found my sweet spot, because I love technology, I love creativity, and I'm a big game head. So, like, you know, creating things, creating films in a game engine was like something that was like amazing.
Okay. So more than your experience, now tell me a little bit about how did you apply that in any of your recent commercials or any of the commercials?
Okay, so basically now virtual production, because I come from the virtual production world, that experience for me right now is vital, because my entire background, when I shoot, okay, so there is a virtual world, which is the background, and there is a real world, which are my actors and maybe, you know, the props that they interact with. So Unreal is basically the bedrock of the virtual world, and that's where all my scenes and my environments and everything are there. And then my actors, we shoot them on the LED walls or, you know, real-time compositing technology. and then we merged both of them. So that's where my experience as a director of photography as well as an Unreal user comes in place. So that's where you match both the digital world and the real world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to Aseem ji. So Aseem, you've seen so many technologies and so many other, you must have trained the transition also from film to digital, and within digital there's so much now everybody talks about virtual scouting and virtual cinematography before the actual act of it. So how's that transition been for you, and how's your journey, and how have you adapted, and how have you used it for the benefit or to the directors and things?
I mean, first of all, I would begin with an apology. I'm not a technical guy. Being a cinematographer also, I'm not a technical guy at all. And I call this entire VFX world and virtual world, where I had the fortune of shooting for one day and I was handheld by her. I was like a lost babe from the woods. In my limited experience of VFX, which is probably 10-15 films with VFX, I have only worked with one guy who is currently present in the room somewhere, Mr. Naveen Paul. I call him Anna dearly. I've always been handheld by him, and I call the entire VFX world magicians, and the magic that doesn't really disappear, like a kabutar in hand ke jahan kabutar disappear ho gaya. This magic stays. And I don't know if I can put any light on VFX world, but all I can say is what I have learned as a cinematographer is that don't be, if we have cinematographers here, don't be into an ego issue with your technologists who are actually artists. We call them technicians. They're not technicians, they're artists. They're taking your vision forward, your director's vision forward, and don't fight with them. There have been instances where I have been asked to shoot something by Naveen and by Mr. Devgan, and I'm like, where is that frame? But the frame that I see, I've never shot it. It's not my creation. Well, I'm getting congratulated for that, but it was not done by me. It was done by NY VFX Wala, it was done by Naveen, it was done by Prime Focus on many instances. So yeah, that's what I can say, that we are only limited by our imagination. They can do anything we want.
So let me ask you this. So is there anything different when you have to just light a set which is all built up, or when you're lighting, or you have to keep in mind when you're doing it with a green screen all the time? What do you do things
Whenever
different?
I light up, and if I know it involves VFX, I do not even dare to light up without asking my VFX team, my VFX supervisor, especially Anna. I don't even, I know what they're going to do later. I want to know that, so that I can complement their visuals and they don't have to fight that later.
Absolutely, yeah.
I always do that like an obedient student, and it always pays.
We wish there were more DOPs like you, sir.
No, I'm learning, as I said in my introduction, that I'm trying to be a cinematographer. I've been 32 years, I've been working. Believe me, I'm still trying.
I'll come back to you. I'm going to jump to Bhanu, and then I'll come to Rajeev. So Bhanu, okay, let's go back to your latest experience of doing maybe a film called Fighter, which obviously was generally didn't have any brickbats for VFX, and it looked awesome, and everybody spoke highly of it and things like that. So how did we, what are the other technological stuff that, you saw used differently to make things more photoreal and believable?
So technology-wise, yeah, obviously with all the software that we are using, we were kind of continue doing that.
Let's talk about the shoot process or any other stuff.
So I got a chance to work closely with Sachit, who was the DOP for that in Siddharth Anand's office. So before the shoot, where they're trying to go, when they're going ahead for shooting particular sequence, we used to sit, and this technology, I would say, is a boom for the VFX supervisors, because right now you get a chance to sit with the directors, get to know what they're thinking, what's there in their head. You get to know how a DOP or how a cinematographer is going to shoot that, and then probably do a previous sort of a thing, get it approved, and then you guys can send, and you know that on the back of the head that whatever is coming to the desk, whether it's coming to the studio, is something which you've already seen. So you're prepared for that.
So obviously, a lot of the previs and using whatever tools real time
yeah.
as well as
Yes.
traditional previs tools really helped
Right.
before going into the shoot.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So going in, I'll come back to you, Bhanu, again. So Rajeev, now I see that you proudly added a doctor in front of your name.
Thank you. Thank
Period
you.
of time. Okay. So how has how have you seen? What are your recent experiences with DOPs or the virtual production or any of the virtual cinematography aspects of it?
So whenever I'm gearing up for a project, sitting at Excel, what is a privilege to me is that I get involved right from the script. And often it comes across that we have to take the brief from the director, what is his mind. But I have been always considering the DOPs as a second eye for the director, because every creative input that is coming from the director is limited and to an understanding where how the DOP is seeing it. So in our recent examples, when we are gearing up for one of the biggest mythology that's happening later in the year, a lot of pre-production has happened, but from the DOP's perspective, we've done a virtual set like you just mentioned, and we are scouting it with the director, with the DOP involved into it. So he is actually framing the shot, not visiting to the live locations or having a sense of that what the set looks like. It's actual scale. You can see the way the shots have to be. What it helps eventually is that you get a precise understanding that how the film is looking before even you are on shoot. So this helps to control the budget. This helps to plan the deliveries, the way the producers have been looking at, and to absolutely push for the quality. So I would say that in our recent examples also, when we've been doing the films, K.U. Mohanan sir or Jay Oza, they've been involved right from the beginning that how the creative amalgamation of the shots have to be. Like more than the director, they have been involved at what the shot framing has to be, what the chroma has to be looking like. We've never been facing a challenge. So I would say that DOP have been always a strength for the film.
Absolutely, it's a combination of it's everybody have to collaborate and work together to get this going. So what I'm going to talk about, like you said, a huge amount of emphasis is being laid by a lot of the OTT and the platforms and even the big studios who are into making films, in terms of they realize the importance of pre-prod. Previously, everybody got into the previs bandwagon and pre-visualization. Beyond that, right now they also, I'm hearing, with people like Netflix and Amazon investing huge amounts of money on their virtual cinematography and things like that. They don't go into shoot before the DOPs come and do the whole film as much as possible or the episodics, multiple episodes, all pre-planned, done it that way so that they know this is where we are. Even if we deviate, we're going to deviate only 10-15%. That puts a huge amount of control on the budgets, and and we know what we can, and the variables are limited in as we move forward, and that's something that has helped this technology. Obviously, I would emphasize obviously game engines coming into this business has helped, and COVID, the post-pandemic, the pandemic accelerated the hype around it and the utilization, the usage of all the things that are going on. And I also see I was speaking to Harry the other day in Bangalore. He was saying, yeah, right now you see I can take my iPhone and I can use a photogrammetry scan immediately and take the object in. Those things never existed. We used to carry huge amount of LiDAR data and all those stuff. Things have moved on, and even people are trying to do a lot more stuff with even their mobile phones nowadays. And I think that's really, technology has become a big enabler on that front. So going back, Arpan, now what do you now, as you have seen, how are you embracing are you embracing anything on the virtual production using volumes and things like that for shooting anything? Do you think that's a thing that will help you in cutting costs and achieving certain things and certain types of things and not for everything. Where do you see that usage? Where are you planning and what do you see?
So, in terms of virtual production, I have not yet dwelled much into that because most of the time I've used my LED screens to do a lot of car chroma shots because few of my shows had certain environments which are not existing. Like, you don't have streets of 1940s. So how are you going to shoot the plates? So then, it became very important for me to really recreate the streets of Mumbai. And, we created like 3 kilometers of a stretch as a plate. And then we projected onto the LED screen. And that's how we shot the whole sequence. And it's basically a series called Jubilee. So that's where I use virtual production. The entire series, all the car sequences are done on LED screen. And also, like, it was fantastic because it was not only about shooting this, because we had rain in it, we had multiple elements going in that stuff. So it was a great R&D, and ultimately it came out good. And for now, for all my films, I really suggest that we can be comfortable if we can shoot the car plates on an LED screen. You have train scenes and all those things are much more comfortable. So other than that, there's been one more project which we've been talking about using the virtual screen. But that project demands that kind of function because we're creating a sci-fi world. And for that, we want to create a space which is large enough to have a foreground element and the background element so that we can actually do lots of sequence there and not just for one scene. So I'm really looking forward to go into that kind of filmmaking, but that project demands it. It's not that I'm too excited about just going on to the virtual screen. If that is the requirement, and if there are certain areas where it is not possible to go and shoot, then I would definitely go and suggest to go the virtual way.
So that reminds me of a project that my company and we were involved in called First Man, which we won an Oscar. It's about Neil Armstrong going to the moon. And Denis Villeneuve, who was the director, was very insistent that everything has to be photoreal. And he actually hired fighter aircrafts to shoot at the border of the atmospherics to get the realistic plates as well as the different environments. And then the word virtual production didn't exist 6 years back, and they used to project it on huge LED screens and to get realistic reflections and for the actors to actually get the actual performances out of actors and things like that. So they had things. And technically we had to shoot, pre-shoot and then the shoot, where they had to shoot huge amounts of footage to get it projected and get all those actions. And obviously what he got was, he also got better performances out of his actors because they had something to react to. And that is something that's been obviously used and things like that. Now, I'm going to go to Gautami again. So Gautami, now, obviously there is traditional lighting that you do for normal with bag environments and everything like that, which is real. Now, how do you, what changes when you're lighting with the foreground differently when you're using LED volumes and things like that?
So basically the philosophy of lighting remains the same. The difference is that because I'm working with different layers in the background and the foreground, I have to basically first light my backgrounds, never the foreground. Because as Sir said, we always work backwards in virtual production. Like what is the final output, and then work backwards with the VFX supervisor, my director, my production designer, very important part of the equation. So the first thing I do is I sit down with my VAT team, with my VFX supervisor, VP Soups, and light the backgrounds, because then I know exactly what to do on the day of the shoot with the foreground lighting. Like, how am I going to light my actor? What is the motivation of the lighting? How realistic can I make it look? So the thing is that now I'm not just lighting one huge layer in live action the way I do. I'm lighting multiple layers.
Understood, but how do you get that true integration point? You lighting backgrounds, how do you compensate for the background lights that are coming in from the LED volumes and things like that?
So basically, you also do traditional lighting on the foreground, but what you do is that you extend the background lighting. So if I have, let's say, I have a side light that's coming from the LED wall on the side. I actually would have to, like, there will be some interaction with the LED wall on the actor's face, but I will still put a physical light here to extend that light, simulate that light, so that it looks realistic. Like, especially, you know, cars or like, you know, people walking on streets and stuff like that. We've got something called pixel mapping, wherein we can use our physical lights and through technology, virtual production technology, make them an extension of the lights which are there in the virtual background, so that both of them kind of then look very real. Then you cannot tell what is real, what is not real, because the light is exactly what it would be when I will actually shoot a live action shoot. It becomes one light, not different lights at different points. So that's
What about
usually the thing.
how have you been dealing with moving cameras being synced with the volumes and things like that?
So basically, like as you know, the LED technology has the parallax that's happening, you know, so that's the biggest advancement of virtual production from let's say the Charlie Chaplin era, where there was forced perspective and, you know, projection and all that stuff. Because the background moves with my camera and it kind of pretty much works the way the eye works, your eye is fooled into thinking that, you know, it's all one plane. It's all one layer and it's all one thing. So moving the cameras also has to be a little intentional, because to give the realistic feel, you have to work with the physical constraints. Whereas in the virtual world, I do not have physical constraints. But I still have to work with my constraints of the physical camera. So then I actually, in my virtual camera, when I'm doing the virtual cinematography for my background, I actually put the constraints of what I would do on set. Like, okay, I have a rail, so I have the same rail, the same physics used in my background. Like if I want a moving shot, then I would say, okay, how would my camera move in my real world? Take that physics, put it back into the...
Again, layer it, right?
Again, layer it. It's always layers. Virtual production is layers, which is why I would say the VFX supervisor and the production designer are my best friends on set.
So, Bhanu, how are you looking at, you know, what are the other aspects that you collaborate very closely with a cinematographer in getting into on a shoot, or, you know, using any of the technologies that you want to do?
Virtual production is something which is really something which excites us on a good level, because it's less time consuming. And also, as Gautami was saying, the light in the panel background actually blends perfectly with the character standing in front. So if something which is shot on a green screen versus something which is shot on a virtual production on the big volumes, it differs. So if like the one show I would like to bring this, I was working, and it had a huge sequence where they had shot everything on the volumes. The entire city was shot, and the only thing we had to do was do a CG ship and it flies around. So it was easy for us to do that because the perspective and everything matches. So we know the position of the ship, and we just have to move around, match the lighting of the ship to the environment and everything which was given to us. And on the flip side, in the next sequence, there was stuff which was shot on a green screen where they had to build their entire set, and there was huge lights, floodlights on top of it, and we have to replicate a moonlight which cannot be this much bright, like this bright cannot be a moonlight. So we have to replace the entire BG in that case and do a new BG which is more cost effective. So technology wise, even virtual production is something, things which are shot in virtual production is something which excites us. Then things which is coming in AI right now, like stable diffusion is something that we are using regularly to do a quick concept. Like if you're working with any of our lead or any artist, and if they tell us, okay, just let us know how to do it, or maybe if you're working with client and they want us to see how it's looking in our head, then we can quickly go around, do a single frame of that in the nuke and take a snapshot, show it to him, this is how the environment would look like with the new AI. And
yeah. And with the adoption of, it's a boon and a bane, some of the volume work, I remember there were 2 or 3 projects we bid on. The director wants to change what has been shot on the LED volume. Now it's coming up. Those are things that also, sometimes you're stuck with what you shot. Yeah. And I guess that same could be said about when they shoot live action too. So in Excel, obviously you have quite a big slate of films and big budget stuff that you guys do. So being the head of VFX, how are you also educating and partnering with the directors of all your slate of movies to try and see the first point that you highlighted when you started, the budgets? How are you, what have you incorporated and what changes have you brought about?
If I speak anything, I think there are a lot of friends who are going to just say, oh, he's lying, ये पैसा नहीं देता है. So it is. So it starts with, definitely there is a shift which has happened when we start reading the script. Earlier what used to happen that the film has been shot and there's a limited number of budgets that you have to work with. Right now the case is not that. What has happened is that when you are reading it, when you're planning it, you have a certain, how you plan your line production budget. This is where the VFX budget also comes into play, that this film looks like it can happen in this kind of numbers. Now if the numbers are not falling in place, it always has to go back down to either reducing the creative or find a better solutions or use of technologies or get somebody who can try to bring it in the numbers that we are looking at. So there is a knowledge that always the director wants to listen, because there is a guy who is sitting inside who is telling you something and which needs to be heard. And while it's not just the director or the creative build, it's also the production who is trying to find out the best possible solutions, like virtual production.
Get out a good product finally.
Finally a good product. And it's a combination of virtual production, it's a combination of your traditional VFX. It's also, right now the project that we are doing, there's a heavy pre-production that has got involved into it. Arpan is the part of that project. So what has happened exactly is that because of that pre-production, everybody has got a sense that what is the scale of the film. And so the budget, obviously looking at that scale, gets very easy for me to, okay, this is what the numbers are looking like. So it's easy to say that, okay, this is why it is required, rather than having a challenge to convince that you don't have a budget, so you can't make the film.
But technically now you are also on the table along with the director, the DOP,
Yes.
as well as your bosses, the studio bosses, to say, let's come out with a solution together.
100%.
So that's changed. Things
That's
have changed.
And the directors, the DOPs, the production, everybody is ready to involve into the technical discussion to find a better way of shooting it. It's not like, okay, this is the only way that we can shoot it. So I think that has helped them. From last 5 years, I've been seeing this, and a lot of communication that is happening across the studios is in a way that what is the solution that the studio is ready to give.
How are we doing on time? It says, should we take some questions right away, or do you have time for questions after this? You know, anybody can help me with this? Or should we just go for questions? It says 2.5 minutes left. Are we good to take questions, or you want to? Pardon? We can take 1 or 2 questions if you want right now, and then we can cross off.
Nobody.
We can take it offline. Okay. And we'll take Aseem's suggestion. If there are any questions, people are around, and we'll be happy to take it offline.
Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
And
guys.
thank you everybody for being here and listening to us patiently. And I'm sure that it would have benefited some of the students and some of the other guys who are pretty frequent in the circuit, maybe hearing the same boring topic over and over and again. Okay. So thank you very much, and I'll let the compare take the. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you everybody.
Thank you very much.